Our story takes place on a small island, a part of the Zanzibar archipelago islands of East Africa. The British and the Germans had signed the Anglo-German Agreement of 1890 during the period of the scramble for Africa. Zanzibar was to become British, whilst Germany was given control over mainland Tanzania. The ruling sultans were forced to relinquish the mainland to the Germans and for the Zanzibar Islands to become a protectorate of the British Empire. Britain agreed to uphold the Sultanate as an institution, but stressed it would have little to no power. Britain outlined two key policy goals: the abolition of slavery and the restoration of the island's economy. Locals and the wealthy upper classes were unhappy with these policies, particularly Britain's stance on slavery, as it had become extremely lucrative in Zanzibar. Ali bin Said resisted these until his death in 1893. When it came time to choose a successor, Britain was eager to select a puppet sultan who would be supportive of the British and submissive on all terms. Hamad bin Thuwaini was given the position in 1893. However, Prince Khalid bin Bagash protested that he rightfully deserved the position, stating he had succession claims to the title. At the time, the British were able to convince him to accept their decision. Hamad ruled until August 25th, 1896, when he suddenly died inside his palace under mysterious circumstances. His cousin Khalid, believed to have been responsible, likely poisoning Hamad. Khalid was quick to proclaim himself the new Sultan of Zanzibar, without any acknowledgement from the British. Noteworthy diplomats in the area at the time, whose duty it was to promote and protect British interests, and who had powerful backing of the British Empire, were unhappy and refused to acknowledge Khalid's claim to power. The senior diplomat at the time, Basil Cave, began issuing the first series of warnings to Khalid to stand down, whilst the prince began barricading himself and the nearly 3,000 Sultan soldiers inside the palace on the evening of August 25th. Khalid had access to several artillery pieces and machine guns, some of which were gifts from European rulers, and the armed royal yacht Glasgow anchored in the bay. As a final show of defiance, a large red flag could be seen flying from the palace. Basil Cave began assembling a force of British Marines and Zanzibar locals. The British had two warships anchored in the harbour, the HMS Philomel and the HMS Thrush. Cave also requested backup from a nearby British ship, the HMS Sparrow, which arrived on the evening of the 25th of August. To request the approval of the British government, he sent a telegram to the Foreign Office that evening, requesting permission to fire upon the palace if Khalid refused to negotiate. The next day, on the 26th of August, warships the HMS Raccoon and the HMS St. George arrived. By this time, Cave had received a telegraph from Whitehall granting his requests. After repeated attempts on the 26th of August and the continued refusal of Khalid, the final ultimatum was issued, demanding that he leave the palace by 9 a.m. the next day. On the morning of the 27th of August, only 1 hour before the ultimatum expired, Khalid sent a reply. Cave replied with, At 9 a.m., the warships HMS Raccoon, Thrush, and Sparrow opened fire on the palace with high explosive shells. The palace, constructed mostly of wood, quickly began to collapse and was engulfed in flames, with slaves, servants, and soldiers barricaded inside. By 9:02 a.m., the artillery had been destroyed, and sources say Khalid escaped through a back exit of the palace, fleeing to the German consulate, leaving his servants and soldiers to their fates. At 9:05, the Glasgow fired upon the 5 British warships and was swiftly struck and sunk by British return fire. Her crew hoisted the British flag as a token of surrender and were rescued by British sailors. The Glasgow sank at 10:45 a.m. that day, its masts and funnel projecting from the water. By 9:40 a.m., the shelling had ceased, the Sultan's flag pulled down, and the Anglo-Zanzibar War was over after 40 minutes. Over 500 of Khalid's supporters were killed or wounded. One British petty officer was also severely injured, but he soon recovered. By that same afternoon, the diplomat's desired sultan was named Sultan of Zanzibar. He accepted policy demands concerning the abolition of slavery. And as for Khalid, well, he was allowed by the German government to escape to the Tanzanian mainland to the town of Dar es Salaam. It was only in 1916, during World War I, that Khalid was arrested by the British and sent to St. Helena for exile. He was later allowed to return to East Africa, Mombasa, where he died in 1927. No further revolutions occurred on the island until Britain relieved it of its protectorate status in 1963. Basil Cave campaigned against slavery in Zanzibar, which was finally abolished in 1897. And as for the Glasgow, well, the ship remained there until 1912 when she was broken up for scrap. So there we have it, the shortest war in history. Thanks for watching.